have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world when you hit that play button. So glad you did. This is Dr. Pause, in effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina coming at you with another episode of the Genesis frequency. Diving right in today, kind of taking a little bit of a turn, but you know what? On this positive path for living and personal development, professional development, leadership development, it all ties in together. If you hear it on this show, it's all tied together. So, the last few episodes, we spent a lot of time talking about vibration and frequency and moving up the ladder and looking at the scale. Hopefully, I gave you a good enough visual that you could picture the scale or moving up the ladder, climbing the stairs, the emotional states, moving from the bottom levels of, grief and sorrow and worry and doubt and fear and moving all the way up to love and joy and enlightenment and all that at the other end, matching that which we want to move into our field of experience. So we're going to move away. We spent a lot of time on that, and I really like those episodes. Got some really good comments on those. I would encourage you to go back and listen to those and apply what I shared with you in your life. That's really what this show is all about. I can sit here and talk all day, but if you don't take this information, apprehend it, and apply it in your life, well, it doesn't really mean anything to you personally. But when you apply it, when you look through this lens that I'm offering to you, hey, take a look at it this way. Here's another perspective. Here's a way that you can make a quantum leap in the direction of what you want to experience in your life. When you apply this and see it work in your life, it reinforces your belief in, these laws, the way we're wired, and everything I talk about here on the show. So tell me where you are on your path. Tell me, do you feel stuck? If you're stuck, hey, we can talk about it. I encourage anyone listening to the show. I have people reach out all the time. We have some great conversations. There's no charge for these. This is something I just do for those that listen to this podcast. But, I should be hearing from a lot more. This podcast is going out to 11 different countries where I'm really ranking pretty good and thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads. So I should be hearing from more of you. Don't be shy. Reach out. Let's talk about where you are, where you want to be. And you know what? This is for you as a small business owner, as an individual, or in your corporate environment. When it's corporate environment, we're looking at corporate goals, we're looking at culture, we're looking at leadership development. Real big thing right now. Leadership development, this workforce. That's where our leaders are going to come from. And some people are scratching their head and saying, I don't know about that. So we got to work on that. So we're leaning more and more and more and more into leadership development and training the future leaders and sharpening the skill set of those that are in leadership positions. So a lot of work with individuals, small businesses, and in the corporate environment. So reach out, Stephen at successocean.com is the email. Stephen, Stephen, and successappointment.com is my calendar. Successappointment.com. Let's dive in today. I wanted to talk today about attitude because it really closely relates to everything we talked about regarding vibration and frequency and where we're at on the scale where we're at with our emotional state. And, you can hear that word attitude, and we hear it a lot. It's thrown around all over the place, and everybody thinks they know what attitude is. Some do, some don't. Do you know what the components of attitude are? What are those components? What makes up attitude? And that's where we lose a lot of people because you can go on the streets, you can talk about attitude, and you can talk to 100 people and you'll get 100 different answers. But really, attitude comes down to our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and we could really put beliefs in there too. We can really boil it down to our thought, of this, our speech, right? And our behavior. And we have to really take a look at our attitude. Now, don't shut this thing off and say, I know all about attitude. You either have a good one or a bad one. There's more to it than that. There's much more to it than that. And when we look at it, when we look at attitude and realize that, hey, it is a conglomerate, right? It is our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our speech, our behavior, all those things. We have to step back and just objectively do an assessment and say, where am I at? I think I have a good attitude. Well, thinking you have a good attitude doesn't make it so. So you might want to be objective and take a look at these different elements that make up your attitude. Where are you? And are they in alignment with each other? That's the big thing. And as we take a look at these, as we become objective and have a solid, honest look at the components of our own attitude, are we being honest with ourselves when it comes to this alignment part, right? Our thoughts, our speech, our feelings, our actions, because we can think thoughts, we can internalize so much and think, I'm thinking really positive about this, for instance. And I'm not just thinking, hey, think happy rainbow thoughts all the time and you'll accomplish your goals overnight. That's not what this is all about. We all are dealing with our own attitudes, and we have attitudes that we possess made of all these things, right? So we can have thoughts and we can say, yeah, I have a positive mental attitude. I am positive. I believe I can. But then beneath that or back of that, you might be feeling inferior. You might have a self image that, hey, is contrary to what you're thinking, right? So where this ties back into the emotional state. You can say, yes, rah, 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 rah. I have a positive mental attitude. My thoughts are positive, right? But you're not feeling it. And maybe your actions aren't in alignment. Yeah, I'm positive, but every time you approach a new project or new task, your actions are, one of avoidance. How can I get around that? How can I just shovel that off? I know it's mine to do, but maybe I can I'll just put it off. Maybe it leads to procrastination, that kind of thing. Those are some identifiers that we can really look at and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I can't say that my attitude is one of a positive mental attitude, yet my feelings and my actions and even my speech, right? My words are not in alignment just because I'm thinking that I have a positive attitude about life and living." So where are you when it comes to your attitude? Your attitude, and I know this is cliche, but it makes so much sense. I know it is cliche. Attitude determines your altitude. How high do you want to go? We can look at that scale. I invited you to Google the emotional frequency scale, just the scale of feelings and emotions. How high do you want to go? Where's your goal? What is it? Is your attitude in alignment with the person that is receiving what you want to experience in your life. And don't make a mistake thinking that this is just for corporations and not for you as an individual, or just for small business owners and not for the corporate world. Hey, whether it's an individual, a small business owner, or corporation, when it comes to leadership and leading yourself, being a leader in your own life, attitude is everything. So, what's your dominant thought? We want to look at this. We really, really want to look at that, because when we talk about, and I talk about a lot about paradigms, and again, if you're new or newer, paradigms are a multitude of habits that have almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And most of our behavior is habitual. So, if behavior, and we usually think of behavior as our actions, are habitual, well, let's examine those, right? Are these behaviors, the actions I take that contribute to my attitude, what are they? Are they in alignment with the life I would love to live, with a goal that I want to experience, with my aspirations and my desires? Because most people really look at attitude as just the way they're thinking. You ask most people, what's your attitude? That's the way I'm thinking and, looking at life and living. Well, it's so much more than that. So take a look at these. Take a look at your behavior and your actions, because all these elements, all these components of attitude, we can be habitual about those. We can have habitual thoughts. That's usually where we see these things. And people go to work on their habitual thoughts. And that's good. We got to do that. But our feelings can, we can form habit around the way we're feeling, our emotional state. Even some on the negative end of the scale, some of those feelings we feel, like even sorry and sorrow, those can be addictive and form patterns and habits because of the way that of our chemical makeup. We can release different chemicals within ourselves that can become addictive, and we have to move into that emotional state to release more of those in our body. And actions and behaviors and speech, our words, that's another place we can look to see if, hey, are we in alignment with all this? Yeah, I got a positive mental attitude. I got a great attitude. But when we speak to other people, maybe even within ourselves, in that internal dialogue that's always going on, or speaking to coworkers or superiors or customers or prospects, does that speech line up with this attitude that we think we have? Or do we have habits of speech, maybe even word tracks that we don't even realize we're using, that are not in alignment with the attitude we think we have? So all of these things contribute, and this is really important coming off the on the heels of the frequency and vibration podcast that I did over the last couple episodes, because attitude is a big contributing factor to all this. And attitude really ties in as having, it ties into the effect that it has on you personally, professionally, in your business, in your corporate environment, and on what's showing up. Your attitude is one of the biggest factors. That's why you can pick up just about any self help book or professional help book or leadership book. Every single one of them is going to have a chapter on attitude and talk about this. And that's why there's so much focus, those of us that do this work, on attitude, because it has an effect. I love, love, love doing more work with an organization he founded, Paul J. Meyer. Paul J. Meyer was just a beast. I mean, the real deal. Um, Born in like 1928, became a millionaire by 27. Yeah, that would have been like 1955. And this is some guy that just didn't talk it. He walked it and talked it. And Paul J. Meyer found Success Motivation Institute, Leadership Management Incorporated, and a bunch of other companies. And he's got a whole bunch of books out there. And he talks on attitude quite a bit. and realizes that and teaches that our attitude has a profound effect on what's showing up in our lives. Let's just look at a couple elements that he shares. Paul shares. He says, your basic attitude affects your belief in your potential for success. And this is where we talk about praxis a little bit, at least I do on this show and in some of the programs and talks that I do in workshops and the training and the leadership development. Praxis is our integration of our beliefs with our behaviors. But if our behavior is a component of our attitude, we better check this because we live in a cause and effect universe. And you always hear me talking. I tongue in cheek say this is Dr. Cause and Effect, a play on my last name, Cosmina. But since we live in a cause and effect universe, over the last couple episodes, I was talking about what are the laws that precede the law of attraction. There's 8 laws that precede the law of attraction. We have to look at the laws of causation, not just to attraction, which is an effect. What causes the effect? What causes the attraction? Well, attitude is a big contributing factor here. So your basic attitude affects your belief, let's say, as Paul Meyer says, in your potential for success. What do you believe about that? Do you really believe? Do you have an attitude that and a belief that, yes, I am successful? I can continue to be successful. Do you have an attitude that even with when something shows up and looks like failure, can you celebrate it in a way that I successfully learned in a way that doesn't work for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish? So these are primary laws. This is really one of the first laws, the law of perpetual transmutation. Energy moves into physical form. So when we're holding a dominant attitude that is not in alignment with what we want to experience, we're not going to have any success. So the effect of your attitude on you. Number one, your basic attitude affects your belief and your potential for success. Paul says a negative attitude causes you to doubt your ability to achieve, while belief in your potential makes you willing to take the necessary actions for success. Number two, your attitude determines how you perceive a challenge. Think about this. These are easy self-assessments you can do right here, right now. Your attitude determines how you perceive a challenge. Now, Paul says a positive attitude lets you see a challenge as an opportunity rather than a threat. A lot of people look at a challenge and say, oh, no, no, and they run from it. They hide from it. They procrastinate. They sweep it under the rug. They avoid it. Here's a challenge. Oh, no. They move down the emotional scale. The emotional state drops because they're dreading this challenge that showed up rather than having the attitude, oh, great, another opportunity to learn and to grow. I can hardly wait to see what's on the other side of this challenge because there will be growth. There will be something that I don't know right now that I will learn from this. Where is your attitude when it comes to this? Number three is your attitude determines your confidence level. Your confidence level. Paul Meyer again, I'm quoting, people with negative attitudes think, I can't, or I doubt. In contrast, each time you act from a positive attitude, your self confidence is enhanced. Your ability to achieve is proven, and not think, you can succeed. Your attitude. It's your attitude that determines your confidence level. Are you walking in there? Are you walking in the place like you own it? Are you walking into the room like you own the place? And I'm not talking about puffed up ego here. Confidence in your God given ability to access infinite intelligence, wisdom, guidance. It's all within you. And number four, your attitude affects how you see opportunity. These are just little self assessments you can do. You can take a look at this. Your attitude affects how you see opportunity. Paul says people who have negative attitudes have buried the ability to see opportunity. A positive attitude opens your eyes to so many opportunities that your challenge becomes which opportunity to choose. So, the negative attitudes out there, hey, they don't really even see the opportunities. There's an opportunity coming along and say, oh, yeah, the skeptic comes out. Oh, that won't work. They don't have that can do, confident attitude. They don't perceive the opportunity, even if it's surrounded or wrapped in a challenge. They just see it as, oh, I'm going to avoid that. That's not an opportunity. Oh, I don't know, that's going to cost me physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. And you know what I'm talking about. So take a look at these things because attitude is cause. Your attitude is something that precedes what you attract into your life. So often we're thinking that, hey, my desire is for, the $1 billion in the bank account, a house on the beach, and all that stuff. But we have to look at these intangible aspects of character and thought and how we're showing up because the model is be, do, and have. What are you being? And what you are being all starts with your attitude. And we can throw in here, we can throw the self image in here, we can throw the integration of beliefs with behavior. So we have to examine all this. And I'm not talking about an examination where you go in and you're beating yourself up and saying, hey, this sucks, that sucks. I'm not talking about that. Where really are you when you look at the elements of attitude? Because you can make adjustments. You can make adjustments because we'll talk more about that. I'm running out of time, but we can talk more about forming attitudes because it comes down to how we're processing the input that we're taking in and day out. And I've talked a lot about that in the past. We had input, programming poured into us. First of all, we came with some. We came prepackaged like computers do. This got Windows 95 in it. So many of us are operating on that. We've never upgraded, right? We never upgraded to version 2023 or whatever it is. But we can form attitudes, and it comes down to this personal processing of this input. When we were little babies, we didn't have the faculties of reason to filter things out. But even as we're older, so many of us don't do that filtering. So we take the input, we process it in a way that it runs or shapes or forms our attitude. So we'll talk more about that moving forward. That's all the time we have for today. Again, I want to encourage you to reach out. Let's have a conversation. Successappointment.com gets you on my calendar. Successappointment.com. And we can have a conversation. That's not a sales page. That's just to get on the phone. We'll have a conversation about where you are, where you want to go. We'll talk about, hey, why aren't you there yet? Because I find most people want to know, what is my sticking point? Why do I get so far and then go back? I can help you with that. And this is for you as an individual, small business, or a corporate entity. And I'd love to talk to you about coming in and doing a workshop, doing some training, doing some assessments, and some assessments available, some personality profiles. We can do all that kind of stuff. So anyway, reach out. Would love to talk to you. For now, this is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina, wishing you an infinitely spectacular day. Thank you for listening to the Genesis Frequency. God bless you.